I think that's helped them get to about, what, third of a length, half a length, perhaps even more than that.
Yeah,
so really good start from Thames. As you said earlier, you know, Thames are going really well at the moment at the club. They must, you know, they must be really proud of what they've achieved over the last. Look at that fantastic shot. That tells you. So what do we know? Half a length. That's certainly a length.
At
I
least.
can't even fib to you. It's definitely a length. Wonderful shot. And the Thames Rowing Club going really well at the moment. And no signs of them getting depleted at all. Their men's eights are going really well, and as you can see from here, the women's section going equally well.
It's fair to say, Greg, that success breeds success, and I think that first Henley Royal win a few years ago in the Thames Challenge Cup was just a bit of a breakthrough for the club, and since then they've just gone from strength to strength. And here, the fact that this crew have had domestic success all the way through the year, you know, featuring highly at the Met and at Wallingford, just bears out here. They're now striding away from Nottingham, who themselves are sort of no pushovers, no slackers, but just come up against a better crew on the day here in the form of Thames.
So Fergus just doing a comparison of rate. About the same, but it seems that there's just that more power being, you know, put down here, and that of course means that you know, Thames have had a really good winter. You know, when we talk about power in the summer, a lot of that is because of the just horrible work that's been done in the winter on the ergos, running, all of that kind of thing. And it's often people say the success in the summer is won because of the work that's done in the winter. And you can see if the stroke rate is the same, the power is just that much greater. Now there's Thames. They've taken the stroke rate Fergus down now from 35.5 down to 33. They're not paddling, there's plenty of power still going down there, but they're in control now. You can't help but look at the other crew, and you can't help as a member of that crew to look down there and say, okay, well, we can see where you are. You know, we're obviously listening to the coxed, but we've got you covered. You can come back at us now, but we've got you covered. And there's about 800 metres to go, and they're fully in control.
I imagine we're probably going to have quite a lot of people from Thames Rowing Club listening in at the moment, because in the next 3 races we've got another 2 Thames 8s, which is just so impressive to have 3 Thames Rowing Club 8s in the quarterfinals of one competition, one category here at Henley Women's Regatta, which, as we've substantiated and said all weekend, it is the premier competition for women's rowing. And here we go, race 2-1-1 underway. More Thames interest, Vesta on the Berkshire station and Thames B, I believe, on the Buckinghamshire station. So whilst Thames A make it look easy on the course, can Thames B join them in the semi-finals of this competition?
Well, Tom, it looks like a super start by both crews, doesn't it? And this will be a really interesting race, I think. Vesta,
yeah, nice and clean.
Yeah, Vesta look as though they've gone out pretty quick.
But of course, these two crews boat across a road essentially from each other. It's just that road that runs into the centre of Putney that separates them. So they'll be well acquainted with how the styles differ and how the power goes down. And I imagine at the moment, Vesta determined not to allow their local rivals any more than strictly necessary in the semis.
They're just about to settle, aren't they? They're just going to bring their rate down now, and that'll be Vesta have just got, again, difficult to say, but it looks as though they've gone almost out to a length against Thames B. Vesta club also that's going ever so well at the moment. I mean, the rowing nationwide at the moment is super, and it's really difficult to actually, if you're working, it's really difficult to train. So hats off to anybody who's in a club and finds the time to train, because all of these athletes, you can't do this. You can't come to this premier event without having put hours and hours of work in. So something's got to be sacrificed.
It was my girlfriend for me, Greg. That's what went.
Yeah. That wasn't what I heard, but
maybe she ditched me, I'm not sure.
That's what I heard. you know, hats off. Look, these are super athletes. You know, they're at club. If you go back to club 15 years ago, it would be entirely different. You know, everybody's working so hard these days, and these athletes are finding time to train, and particularly, as I said, just there in the winter. And look at the blade work. You know, it's aspirational club 8s. The blade work's really good. And then, of course, you put in the coaches, because all of these crews will have volunteer coaches, and you know, Fergus has spoken about a number of coaches, but without those people, you know, these athletes wouldn't be doing so well.
Yeah, completely agree, and it's quite right to highlight the phenomenal work that goes in from the volunteer network right through to the athletes themselves, who, like you say, put so much work in, so much time, and it's often not highlighted. You know, your crew loses, and it's sort of oh well, you know, that's a shame, better luck next year. But actually, to get to the start line for one of these premier events is an achievement in itself, and everybody who does compete here sort of deserves that recognition. But Vesta here, looking really powerful, really relaxed, actually, it has to be said, rowing pretty well and enjoying themselves as they come down into the enclosures.
Yeah, and some pretty good blade work there.
So next race on the state boats. We'll keep up to date with what's happening with Vesta further up the course, but this is a contest 2-1-2 between Bristol City and Lee Rowing Club on the Berkshire and Buckinghamshire stations respectively. Just off the start there, you can see Lee in that distinctive orange kit, and Bristol closest to the camera. Nice clean starts from both crews. No early dramas to speak of just yet.
They've certainly ramped the rate up there, haven't they, City of Bristol? Really going for it there. Of course, always the danger of going up that high that people can't get down the slide at the same time. But my goodness, they've really gone for it. Not the easiest place to train either at the City of Bristol. In the harbour there. It's really busy and some very tight turns there. But they've really gone for it, haven't they? My goodness. They've got to transition at some stage. You can't keep that rate up for the whole of the race. They've obviously front-loaded this, Tom, do you not think? And
yeah, 100%.
There they've just transitioned, they've just brought it down a little bit. They'll transition again in about 5 strokes.
I think that's a sensible tactic at Henley. I think with the match racing dynamic that it is, if you can get out ahead of your opposition and almost leave them for dead in terms of the gap that is between you, if you can break that elastic that separates you, then I think quite often you can decide a race even if your cruising speed is not that much higher than your opposition. And Bristol are evidently trying to do that here. But this crew themselves actually won Club 8s at the Met and placed second in the B final on the Sunday when all the 8s came together across the categories. So a strong club crew in and of themselves, and Lee here just don't quite know what's hit them, I don't think.
Well, I'd still a pretty high rate. And of course, we're saying that, but if they're comfortable at that, and that's how they row best, they've really gone out for it though. Got a length in the third at the moment as they pass our commentary position. Really thrashing up and down, but it seems to be working.
Well, I suppose a high rate's no bad thing, assuming that you don't sacrifice power. The work that you're doing in the water can't be compromised by the speed at which you're going up the slide. But Bristol obviously have found a happy medium, and at the moment it seems to be working for them.
There's certainly plenty of passion at City of Bristol Rowing Club. Again, another club that's got really good junior section, working really hard with the junior section, trying to bring them on. There's a lot of good clubs around that southwest area.
So there we go, the drone shot giving us full clarity over what's happening on the water. You can see there Henley spread out in all its glory in the background, but at the moment Bristol enjoying a bit of glory on the water. Some 2 lengths up now on Lee, and looking reasonably secure of progression through to the semi-finals of the Aspirational Club 8s. Next race on the course will be 2-1-3, yet another Thames Rowing Club crew facing up against Agecroft Rowing Club in our 4th and final quarter-final.
What did you say, Tom? I was only
Race and then you can jump on.
So there we are. There's Bristol. At last, they've managed to bring their rate down a little. I was exhausted just watching them, but no, they've brought it down now. They're in control. But Mike, look at the Cox. He's no wonder the rate's so high. He's
really going for that.
Absolutely. I'm not sure he's got a Cox box. I hope he hasn't actually.
No mercy.
He's really working his crew. And it's very effective thrashing we're seeing here.
Looks as though they've got the.
I think he has got his Cox box. He's giving this race everything.
Goodness me.
But he has carried
Well
his
done.
crew.
He
Carried
has.
his crew over the
Well
line.
done, Bristol.
City of Bristol take this heat of the Aspirational Club 8s.
It's 2-1-3, returning to the start. I think it's still on the state boats at this stage. Agecroft on the Berkshire station. They're in the red kit, up against Thames Rowing Club C on the Buckinghamshire station. So on the state boats here, more Thames interest. Can they navigate a second crew to the semi-finals of this category? Remember a couple of years ago, Greg, we had 2 Thames crews in the final of the Thames Challenge Cup at Henley Royal, which must have been a peculiar one for Ben Lewis, who was the coach at the time.
Yeah. Who was he favouring?
I spoke to him at 4 AM on the Sunday morning. He probably won't like me telling you that. And he said, either way, someone's going to win. That was his take. So
I'm going to remember that. It's a brilliant. As a coach, that's brilliant.
4 AM it was. Outside the Bull on Bell Street. It's true, this really happened.
4 AM. At my age, I just dream. Well, I just dream at 4 AM. It will catch up with you, young man. It will absolutely catch up with you.
I know.
So 3/8. That's amazing, isn't it, Thames?
Yeah, 3 of the 8 quarter-final berths. It's a remarkable achievement. Can they make it 2 in 4? I think their B crew went out at the hands of Vesta a little earlier. But can their C crew overcome Agecroft? Waiting here, a bit of a delay on the start.
just trying to prise Tom away from the mic.
There's a good shot of the start, and you see that bay that I was talking about just on the left there, which is deceptive for coxed boats. There's a line of buoys that runs along there, but of course the eye is drawn to the verge, and so that makes it very difficult if you're in a coxed boat. And we're just looking. It's interesting that that Thames have lined up a little bit. They're straightened up now, so no doubt the cox's hand was up, just needing to be to be straight in there. They look as though they're just about ready. And be interesting if we could keep this view for the start. It's very difficult, I know, for whoever's in charge of the drone to keep it there, but this would be a great shot of the start and show us exactly what happens. There we go. Look at that, isn't that marvellous? So I'm joined at the mic bay by a sage.
My dear Onion. Those drone shots, I mean, you never tire of looking at those, do you? It's absolutely fantastic. I think I said earlier, this was the first regatta to introduce a drone to cover racing before Henley Royal, despite what other people think.
I thought you put a camera up on a kite one year.
In innovation. Well, you thought the drone had a little fella up there pedalling, didn't you?
I did,
like
actually.
A windmill. Yeah, I had to put you right on that. So, Greg, who's ahead here? So, distance. Berkshire Station by...
Well, the third of a length, that's Agecroft had the better start. But remember, this is Thames C. So, Agecroft storming off. Trying to get that early advantage. You see the effort that's been put in just to try and get that half a length up on Thames C. Working really hard, both crews working really hard. So can't tell you how important the start is here. The start's important, and then the next 500 metres.
We were talking earlier about the psychological aspect of racing behind the island. It just appears to be narrower and seems just all so much more dramatic as you're in an enclosed area.
Yeah, and then it opens out into the... And then the wind hits you if you're not careful.
Yep.
I mean, we're pretty lucky today in that it's a bit of a headwind.
Well, it was gusting earlier. The earlier races this morning, some of the smaller boats were being hit by a bit of crosswind. Because you can see from the drone shot there on the left-hand side, you know, that is open right the way up to the hills at the back.
And the noise you can hear there is actually the Agecroft cox. I mean, how these coxes just must do a huge business in honey and lemon.
The energy that they put in. I mean, they are, the ninth athlete in the boat, aren't they?
And often they're forgotten about. And the other 8 athletes wouldn't go as well, would they, without that 9th athlete?
No, and we're missing Zoe Toledo this year. She's unable to make it, but Zoe's normally a regular here at Henley Women's Regatta, and of course, one of our very best coxes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there we are. That's just over a length. Now, Paul Stewart Bennett was telling me a story earlier. Paul's commentating this year. He did that long distance race in Germany. I think it goes for about an hour, doesn't it, round, and finishes in the centre of one of the Dortmund maybe. However, they borrowed a boat, but they didn't lend them a cox box. So he was at stroke. He had the cox shouting in his face for an hour solid.
That must have hurt.
I think
Did he have a kind of a spittle guard?
He must have done. Right, another race underway here.
Well, this is what we're talking. We had Fergus in. You would have heard Fergus. He's very Scottish.
He should have been doing this one because this is Glasgow and St Andrews.
And we were talking about the resurgence really of Scottish rowing. Here we are, Glasgow University, St Andrews University. Didn't have. I went to St Andrews University. It is obviously the premier university.
Well, if you went there, it had to be.
Yeah, of course. And they didn't have rowing back in the 18th, 19th century. And then we say, the importance of that start. So it's Glasgow University as you look at it on the near side, St Andrews on the far side. So it's Glasgow's got the advantage, a super start from them. And again, remember these are coxless boats, so some poor person has a foot attached to the rudder. And honestly, they get very little help from the umpire. The umpire doesn't say, I think you're going off course a bit, could you steer back a little?
Well, it's not their job to steer them, is there?
No, absolutely.
Because you know all about umpiring now, don't you?
I am a British rowing umpire.
And I think that came about because you, in a very subtle way, made a slight criticism of umpires here, and they said, if you think you can do any better, big boy, you join us. And here you are now a qualified umpire.
You are a bit like an elephant in many ways. You don't forget. No, I did get something wrong, and they did set that challenge and said, if you think you can do any better, you should join us. And I thought, yeah, I should. And I have. And I've now, of course, got lots of respect.
And you've got the T-shirt.
And I have the badge.
So you've done a bit of flag waving, but you told me it's a bit boring sitting around at other times. Is that right?
It can be very, 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 very boring.
This isn't boring. Henley Women's Regatta, Saturday. Coming
Sun's
up
shining.
Sun is
Just
shining.
beautiful.
You're
and this
here.
we keep saying it's a premier world event. So here we are, you and I, commentating on a premier world event. It's just
Privileged to commentate.
We are privileged to, and here we are. There's Glasgow, still leading St Andrews, but St Andrews, I tell you what, putting they've come back at Glasgow a wee bit, and look at that. Yes, they have. And so St Andrews really working hard. They've got that bucket. Talking about the bucket, the two blades on the same side. As you look at it, it's the crew on the right-hand side, and it was the two blades on the left-hand side. Glasgow just still with the advantage there.
It's a wee bit dark down there at the start, isn't it, Greg? Can you pick out there's the start of the next race?
We've got two uni crews now, of course. We've got Nottingham University on our side, the Berkshire station, and London University on the far station. Again, have a wee look at the steering there. They've just corrected themselves. Didn't need the help of the umpire on that occasion. A cracking start from both crews. Looks like Nottingham have had the better of that one. Distinctive yellow blades, of course, for Nottingham.
So this race just underway, getting to the end of Temple Island, keeping an eye on the Scottish battle top of the screen.
And it has been a good battle, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So Glasgow know they've been in a race there, actually.
Yeah, tomorrow, of course, we'll be following the races right through. It's just these first couple of days that we end up having to have two races on the course at the same time. So I hope you don't get too confused. I know we get confused.
That's age on your part.
Yeah, bottom left. If you can see the temple and the island, you know it's the start. I've figured that out after only doing this for 11 years. I worked that one out. And at the top, coming up
so
to
I think
the finish.
London have done really well. They've come back at them.
Yeah.
In that transition. This is so Nottingham still in the lead, but London working really, really hard to stay with them. And not much support here for them at all. In fact, we don't have to do the commentary.
Have we landed in the middle of Nottingham? But it has spurred them on, a bit of support, and they'll hit another wall of noise as they go down. There's a huge crowd down at the Regatta's public enclosure, and there is a huge amount of people here. Big entry this year, hugely popular international event, and this race is not over yet by any means. Now I have Izzy sharing the microphone with me in just a second. Greg has to get off, probably to do a bit of umpiring. Best of luck, and we will no doubt hear from Greg Davis again tomorrow. Now
You'll hear from me because I'll be supporting Shipley College, Leicester Composite.
Good man, good man. Izzy, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you, Martin?
Jolly good. Let's have a look at this race. This has still got plenty in it. Just passing the boat racks. Well, the boating area, they're level now, are they? Can you see that?
Yeah, I'd say it looks like London might just slightly have a lead on that one there.
So
But
keep an eye on that on
minute.
top right. That is very, very close indeed. The camera in there slightly deceiving, but it looks mighty tight still. Next race underway. Umpire already with the flag out.
So we've now got race 216, which is KSRV Noord from the Netherlands, and then Bristol University on the Buckinghamshire station.
Yeah, that's bottom left of the screen, and you can call that. Meanwhile, top of the screen, it's London that have gone through. London leading now by probably 3/4 of a length. Umpire warning again. He's had to work hard to keep these crews apart, and a huge swerve there to get back on station, so that must have cost them a little bit of ground. And as we can see, as these crews are approaching us, crew from the Netherlands nearest to us have had to weave a bit. Bristol have been a bit truer in their steering, but the Dutch, as they approach us, look to have the lead of about a length.
Yeah, this crew's particularly strong. Saw them last year racing a lot. They had entered quite a few different crews last year. Particularly strong. I seem to remember they made a lot of finals. So it wouldn't be surprising to see them go on and win this race. However, Bristol are also an extremely strong crew. Happen to know quite a few of the girls that go training down there at Bristol Uni. Really good training programme. Some fantastic coaching.
And top of the screen we can see that London across the line. There's a bit of clear water there, so they win the previous race. That's a win there for London University over Nottingham University A. And the Dutch, crew 121, Bristol University, are about a length down on them. At the start, the next and final heat of this, the aspirational academic coxless fours, Imperial College and Brookes. Look forward to that one, and that will be this round of races for the, as I say, the aspirational academic fours. And the aspirational academic fours previous race just making its way down the course. There are the Dutch, and we've got the start of, as I say, the next race, Imperial and Brookes.
Highly competitive, I'd imagine this race is going to be, as they come to the end of Temple Islands. Both crews had, or both clubs rather, have had a large amount of crews entered today. I think myself and Will Tyrrell here have commentated on many of their events. Brookes particularly strong, known for their high quality training programme and producing world class athletes across the board. I think just on shot there it does look like Brookes are just edging out a lead.
Yeah, we've spoken quite a bit about Brookes over the course of the last couple of days, but a hugely successful programme and plenty of young athletes. So making their way up towards us. It is Imperial College on the near side that have the lead over Brookes. Looks to be about a length as they're heading up towards us. What do you think, Izzy?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it is about a length. Quite close though still. One of the more close races we've seen today. Previous events, as you may have seen if you've been watching all day, there's always been a dominant crew taking the lead by the quarter mile point. That this looks like it could, the Brookes crew could pull back.
Of course, the Brookes programme is now run by Dan James, formerly of Cambridge University Lightweight Men's Boat Club. This is his first year in charge of the Oxford Brookes women's programme. Seems to have done a very good job here, with also the Oxford Brookes Aspirational Academic 8 racing earlier on in the day.
Dutch there across the line in the previous race, so they will go through to tomorrow. As the shot we see now is Imperial moving away from Brookes. The next batch of races that we've got is the academic double sculls, and then we move on to the J16 coxed fours, academic quads, and racing finishes here with the junior 16 quads at a few minutes before 7. Looks like there is a rearranged race 205 that is going to be rowed at 7 p.m. and that is Durham and Kent schools, so we need to bear that in mind as we look at these images of Imperial still holding off the challenge from Oxford Brookes.
Yeah, that's right. So if we look back at that timetable at the 7 p.m. race, we had the Durham University crew in this Aspirational Academic 8 event did race the University of Edinburgh earlier on, although Edinburgh had an issue off the start of their race and seemed to have broken their steering. So that the racing has now been rescheduled now that the Durham crew have been able to recompose themselves and figure out, alongside the marshals and the umpiring team, what the result would be following that issue with Edinburgh's boat.
Okay, moving down towards the finish, it is Imperial. They seem to now have moved away from Brookes. Keeping an eye on the start, it's the double sculls up next.
So on screens now we can just see Imperial finishing off, coming through their last few strokes, nicely ahead of Brookes. They'll be happy with that finish. Bit disappointing for Brookes, but it was a solid performance put in from them as well. And then should be panning up to the start to see the start of the aspirational doubles, where we will see Sheffield City race against Twickenham Rowing Club.
So we can just see these two crews on the start line there. You can see the Sheffield City crew on the Berkshire station and the Twickenham Rowing Club crew on the Buckinghamshire station. Of course, we'll give them a shout out now. We have this Sheffield City Rowing Club crew of Hamilton and Webb, and the Twickenham Rowing Club crew is composed of Tallis and Lodger. So we're just waiting for the umpire to bring them onto starters orders. You can see they're squaring their blades ready.
So we're getting ready for those final last minute preparations in order to start off, get the best start possible, maximise their stroke length, their rate, to make sure that they get the best start they can possibly achieve.
Now we have it, umpire drops the red flag and they're off. Quick look to the left from the bowwoman of the Sheffield crew.
That was a particularly clean start actually from both crews there. Slight slip from Twickenham possibly, but they seem to be holding it together.
Definitely seem to be rating a lot lower than the Sheffield crew, do they? And the Twickenham double on the right hand side of the screen, don't they, Izzy?
Yeah, they do seem much more relaxed, and we can see there the umpire's flag just making sure they're...
The Sheffield crew need to get straight. They've strayed over, way over into the buoy line. Could be, though. You can see all big wobble there as they hit the buoys with their spoons, and now they're heading straight across the course. They need to get straight. This is not good for Sheffield.
Yeah, it's all about recovery at this point. It's absolutely crucial to make sure they get back in
and
their
now they're
line.
forcing Twickenham crew over. And you can see there Twickenham hitting the booms as well as the Sheffield crew come over into their side of the river. This is not the start that both crews will have wanted.
No, but it's now whether they can pull back from this point. We've seen...
Oh, and the race has been stopped. Seems the umpire has decided that was not a fair start for either crew.
No, we will...
We'll see what happens
Yeah,
next.
we'll keep you updated on this situation. Disappointing start for them. They won't be happy with this. Neither crews look too impressed.
So just a reminder, this is race 218, the aspirational double sculls between Sheffield City and Twickenham Rowing Club. Got 3 more double sculls races to come, followed by J16 fours, academic quads, and ending the day with the junior 16 quads and the final rescheduled aspirational academic 8 race between Durham and Kent School of the United States.
It seems from looking at the drone footage here and the rate that these two doubles are going, I think they just seem to be rowing down to the end. I'd take the assumption that they will re-row this race perhaps, but we're yet to find out. We'll keep you updated.
And now we're moving back up onto the start for the race number 219 between Molesey Boat Club Crew B and the Composite crew of Ipswich Rowing Club and Sudbury Rowing Club. You can see there Ipswich and Sudbury on the left hand side of your screen on the Buckinghamshire station, and Molesey Boat Club here on the Berkshire station. I'll be waiting for the all clear for the course to be ready for them to race on, of course, because we're still waiting for the Sheffield and the Twickenham Rowing Club crews to clear the course as they make their way paddled down. Be interesting to see what the Sheffield and Twickenham crew do here as they approach the gap in the booms. Doesn't seem to me that they look like they're spinning and going back up to the start for a re-row. They just seem to be paddling all the way down the course at this stage.
Race 219's almost ready. You can see them doing their final preparations. Blades aren't quite squared yet in the water, so still a bit of time before we're going to kick off that race.
So we're slightly behind schedule. This is race number 219, scheduled for 5:44. It's currently 5:50. So we've had these few issues with a few races being delayed, having crews hit the booms and having umpires intervening. So just a few minutes delayed in the programme of running today.
Yeah, though I think a few minutes in isn't too bad considering some of the races I've been at where it's been a 3-hour delay of sat on the water.
It's very true.
But, you know, organisation Henley Women's is in its prime.
We'll just see here the Molesey and the Composite Ipswich and Sudbury crew haven't been called. Okay, now they're under starters orders. You can see the blades squared and ready at the front. Don't have a view of the umpire's launch at this stage, but once they go off the start, we will be able to talk you through the racing. And away they go off the start. You can see that Ipswich and Sudbury crew really driving up the race. You can see they're very Very unique style of rowing there in this double scull. Very strong back end of the stroke, as opposed to Molesey here, who are really focusing on getting as much length as possible they can at the front end. You see them there really reaching out at the front of the stroke.
Yeah, a nice line from both crews there from their start point will set them up well for the rest of the course. Just to give you some names of who's in the crew. So the Molesey crew is containing, let me just find the right crew. So that's Emma Freerick and Molly Hopping, whilst in the Ipswich Rowing Club and Sudbury is Jennifer Titterington and Beverly Goodchild.
See Molesey coming now under warning from the umpire. They've strayed way too far over onto the Sudbury and Ipswich station. You can see there that's not too much trouble. As we switch to the drone shot now, it almost seems the crew are following each other in formation in a head race style at this point in time. The time trials did finish this morning.
They most certainly did. Yeah, it really seems that Ipswich Rowing Club and Sudbury, the Composite crew, have got the upper hand in this race. They've got a good, I would say almost 2.5 lengths, maybe 3, on the Molesey crew, which is a nice position to be in as you come up to that quarter mile position. Gives you a nice setup for the row down, and the more they push away at this point of the race, the more they can start to settle as they go further and further away.
We saw that earlier on in the day's racing with the championship double sculls. Seemed to be the case that in almost every single race that happened, the crew that won had a huge advantage approaching the distances between the quarter mile and the barrier. So as we switch on to the camera here at our commentary position, focusing on the Ipswich and the Sudbury crew, we can get a better idea of what the margin is between the two crews, of course. This is the B crew from Molesey in this race. Wonderful shot there with the sun in the background.
Yeah, you can really see the power and length in their stroke from that Composite crew.
I'd say that's about 3 lengths advantage at this stage.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it has to be said, there's been a considerable number of Composite crews today in Henley Women's, and all of them have been performing extremely well, so I think it just goes to show the power that can be brought from combining different clubs together. Don't think I've seen a single one of them come in second place today, actually.
No, really surprising. I saw a Composite crew earlier with 1 Canadian athlete and 1 Swiss athlete. Wonder how you organised the training for that one.
Yeah, that one did baffle us slightly. So you can see there on the drone footage that the umpire is just signalling just to keep out into their respective lanes.
The Molesey crew aren't doing themselves any favours here. By rowing behind this Ipswich and Sudbury Composite, they are being on the receiving end of the dirty water of the puddles there. You can see at the end of each stroke the puddles coming off the blades being sent down towards the Molesey crew, so there's not a clean patch of water for the Molesey crew to row through, which is going to slightly upset the balance of their boat.
And coming into view soon, just now we've got it, so we've got race number 220 starting with Tideway Sculler School and a Composite of Leicester Rowing Club and Shiplake College. Should be an interesting race. 2 extremely strong crews here. We've seen Tideway Scullers perform absolutely amazingly throughout today. We'll be expecting the highest performance from them as well.
Of course, that programme run by Kieran Clark, but it seems to be the case that again it is the Composite crew that have taken the race with full grasp here. Of course, the Shiplake College Composite crew, no doubt. Greg, who you heard commentating a few minutes ago, will be on the bank cheering this crew on.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be extremely pleased with how this race is going so far. Sure, possibly we'll see him cycling past, shouting the enthusiasm to his crew.
And I can see him down on the bank there, in hot pursuit alongside these crews. So now as the boats come past our commentary position, we can see this Shiplake and Leicester Composite crew have a large advantage over the Tideway Scullers School. It's hard to put my finger on it. Maybe I'd say 4 lengths, but definitely by the time we get to the enclosures it could be decided to be an easily verdict.
I'd agree there. So the composite crew contains Laura Henry and Olivia Morgan, whilst we have the Tideway Sculler School consisting of Rachel Dean and Elizabeth Hatch.
What's even more impressive is this composite crew from Leicester and Shiplake College are both actually junior rowers that have come together instead of racing in the junior doubles or the junior singles representing their own boat clubs. They've joined forces here and are racing in this aspirational double sculls event. And now in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen you can see that race number 221 has begun. This is another heat in the aspirational double sculls between the composite crew of York University and York City Rowing Club versus the composite crew from Aberdeen University and Robert Gordon University. So no doubt that it is going to be the composite crew in this case that wins the race.
I know, no shocker there.
So this is the final quarterfinal for today in the aspirational double sculls event, the Rosie May Clothing Trophy, sponsored by Tim and Sarah Lohman. And coming up next we will have the races in the Junior 16 coxed fours, which is for the West End ARA Trophy. We can just see now this is the crew from Aberdeen University and Robert Gordon University, the composite crew. On the Buckinghamshire station seem to have a lead of about 2 lengths over the composite crew from York University and York City Rowing Club. And now as we look onto the start, these two crews exiting Temple Island in the Junior 16 Cox 4 event, we have Kingston Rowing Club on the Berkshire station and in your camera now is the Kent School Boat Club from Connecticut of the United States of America. So we welcome our viewers in the United States. It's a pleasure to have you joining us here at Henley Women's Regatta. Of course, Kent School also raced last weekend at the Reading Amateur Regatta to make sure that they were race ready when it comes to the big event here at Henley Women's, and very tight race as they approach the quarter mile, Izzy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. Just trying to look out of the window from our stationary position up here in the commentary box. It looks pretty tight from what I can see. I think this could be heading towards an interesting race potentially, as all of them obviously have been. Yeah, as Will was just saying now, Kent come all the way from America, and there's been a significant increase in the number of American schools coming over, which is absolutely phenomenal. Really putting the pressure on our UK crews to pull on through.
I believe this Kingston crew is the crew that won this event at the National Schools Regatta, the gold medal. So they are the home favourites, but it is the crew from Kent School of the United States that are holding the challenge. We can see now as they come past our commentary position, it seems to be a half a length advantage to the crew from Kent School Boat Club.
Yeah, it looks like a really dynamic race here. As we're going past, there was so much atmosphere from the supporters on the side, and you could just see how much the girls and those crews wanted to take this finishing position in this race. I think, Will, this might be one of those races that's a battle all the way till the end.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be one of those classic rowing boxing matches that you get here down the Henley course. One of my favourite types of racing, when you just have one other crew beside you and you make it your mission to make sure you cross with your bow ball in front when you get to that finish line. But still here, it is the Kent School crew. You can see the coxed there even turning